Chapter 58. Dreams and God. Genesis 40, 1-23. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers, and he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto them, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants, and he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him. Genesis 40, 1-23. According to A.S. Yehuda, the prison in which Joseph was incarcerated was a very special and dangerous place because the inmates were political prisoners. It was the fortress Saru on the Palestinian border, a place for slave labor by political prisoners, quote, under the supervision of the chief executioner, end quote. The fact that the chief butler and the chief baker were sent there seems to indicate that Yehuda was right. Joseph's consignment to this prison was apparently Potiphar's work, and his quick rise to a responsible post indicates Potiphar's hand again. 2 new inmates were there because Pharaoh, quote, was wroth against, end quote, them, verse 2. In Egypt, Pharaoh's will was justice, and to displease him was to do injustice and be guilty of an offence against a living and present God. All offences against God the Creator are personal offences against our Maker. When the state claims to be God on earth, all offences against the state and its men are made personal affronts, and no moral law need be broken. Dreams and their interpretation are important in the life of Joseph and in other specific cases in the Bible. Dreams can, in rare cases, be prophetic or visionary, but in other cases are meaningless. The interpretation of dreams, Joseph says, is from God, and both the chief butler and chief baker had dreamed strange dreams. The chief butler or cupbearer was a highly trusted man who brought in to Pharaoh his drink and tasted it to ensure that no poison was in it. Because his own life was at stake, the chief butler made sure that no drink was prepared for the ruler except by himself. The butler's dream was of a vine with 3 branches which brought forth ripe grapes. He himself squeezed these into Pharaoh's cup and gave it to him to drink. Verses 9 to 11. Joseph told the butler that the dream meant that in 3 days he would be restored to his position. Joseph explained his own history and asked the butler to intercede for him on his return to Pharaoh's side. Verses 12 to 15. The chief baker then told Joseph his dream. There were 3 white baskets on his head in the dream, and the top basket was full of baked items for Pharaoh, but birds devoured them before he reached his destination. Verse 16. There was a serious problem with his dream. The baked items never reached their destination. The dream was realistic in that Egyptian men carried burdens on their head, while women carried them on their shoulders. In verse 3, we are told that these 2 prisoners were placed in the custody of, quote, the captain of the guard, end quote. This would be Potiphar. Potiphar himself charged Joseph with the care of these 2 men. They were apparently as unjustly imprisoned as was Joseph, and Joseph could best understand their plight. But the baker's dream indicated death in 3 days, not release, and Joseph told him the truth plainly and directly, verses 16 to 19. The 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday and a royal birthday in antiquity, and since then also has commonly been a holiday, or more accurately, a holy day. This meant that the birthday they celebrated was that of their Saviour King. For this reason, early Christians could only celebrate the birthday of Jesus secretly. As the persecutions ended, the birthday of Jesus was openly celebrated. There's an interesting expression in verse 11. The butler says, quote, I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand, end quote, or placed it on his hand. The Egyptians of antiquity did not use handles on cups. Their cups were small bowls which they held in their hand by way of preference. In verse 8, Joseph says, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me then your dreams, I pray you. Because God is the Lord, He alone can know the future because He alone determines it. Joseph's statements thus forbids any humanistic attempt to interpret dreams and foretell the future. Thus, Joseph tells these 2 troubled men that no humanistic interpretation of dreams is valid. Then, by asking them to tell him their dreams, Joseph simply and calmly tells them that he is a prophet of the true God. By God's grace, he can tell them the meaning of their dreams. In one sense, Joseph is a young and bewildered man. Despite all his sufferings, he still knows himself to be somehow God's appointed man. His father and his brothers understood the meaning of Joseph's own 2 dreams. Joseph was too intelligent not to have understood them himself. He tells the butler and the baker, the living God who made all things and who totally predestines all things will give me the wisdom to explain your dreams. Joseph is calm and matter-of-fact about it. His one concern and plea is to the butler, remember me when you are free and work for my release. Verse 23. The butler, however, forgot. He may have reasoned that any reference to his imprisonment would be indelicate in Pharaoh's eyes and unwise. Whatever his reason, he forgot Joseph until God ordained that he should remember him. Had he at once secured Joseph's release, Joseph would have been free to return to Canaan, but to what purpose? For a family war? God kept Joseph in prison until his release made him Egypt's ruler. The butler's lapse of gratitude was thus providential for Joseph, his family, and all of Egypt. Thus we are again reminded of the amazing pattern of God's predestination.